And Alexandra and myself and Seth talking one night, and he said, it's time for another rally. There's not enough of these, and obviously not enough people showing up for them. So let's start off with Alexandra and the Hebrew national anthem, Israeli national anthem.
Very nice, thank you. You want me to do the American national anthem too?
Sure.
Yeah. So we're going to do the American National Anthem, Star Spangled Banner, written by Francis Scott Key Bridge. We also still are memorial of the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly wheeled at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? And now the Israeli national anthem, Hatikva. If everyone knows it, please sing along. Kod balevav panima, nefesh Yehudi homiha, ulefateh mizrach kadima, ayin letzion Sophia, od Yerushalayim liyotam chafshi be'atzenu Eretz Zion Yerushalayim. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Excellent.
She could actually do that in 15 different languages.
I'm counting.
So, as we gather here today, I'd like to thank Yeshua, our Creator, for the beautiful day He's given us, cleared the clouds, brought out the sunshine. Today we're gathered to condemn the murderous actions of Hamas, a terrorist organization that has taken five innocent American citizens and hundreds of others hostage. We stand in solidarity with the families of all of these brave individuals who are being illegally detained against their will. We pray for their safe and speedy return. Hamas's actions are a blatant violation of human rights and international law. For their use of terror, murder, and intimidation tactics will not be tolerated. We demand the immediate safe release of our fellow Americans, and we will not rest until they are back in the arms of their loved ones. We also demand that President Biden stop all aid until our fellow countrymen are released immediately and safely. We call on the international community to join us in denouncing Hamas's actions and to work towards a world where Hamas and other organizations like them no longer exist. Let us stand together against the terrorism and fight for freedom and dignity of all people. Neil, would you like to come up? The next congressman from the 6th District of Maryland, Neil Parrott.
Thank you. Well, first I want to thank Alexandra, I want to thank Fred for organizing this time that we can get together and call attention to a worldwide catastrophe that's happening right now. And I want to thank each one of you for being here to support and strongly support the nation of Israel. We know that in 1948, that's when New Israel came to be. That was officially declared. And they've been attacked since then, trying to kick them out of the land. And it's no different right now. We had Hamas that did a brutal, brutal attack. We haven't seen that many people murdered, Jewish people murdered, at one time since the Holocaust. We have to fight against it. We have to stand against Hamas, and Hamas must be entirely and completely destroyed. The action that Israel is doing right now, frankly, just to defend itself, we need to support. Congress passed aid to give Israel the weapons that they needed to have. Now look, we're not just giving them the weapons, they're actually buying the weapons, and yet the Biden administration refused to give them the weapons that they needed. They put a halt to it. Thankfully, under pressure from the Republicans in Congress, they have started the shipments again, selling Israel the actual ammunition that they need to continue the war against Hamas. We must continue to support Israel. It's unacceptable when you have an unprovoked attack. I mean, just imagine that. We're here at a beautiful day and a beautiful park. It was just like that in Israel. I believe it was October 7th of just last year. They were celebrating. People were having marriages. And then you had these radical Hamas terrorists, murderers who came into Israel and executed almost 2,000 people. They took about 250 people hostage, including right now 5 Americans that are still being held hostage. There is no way that we should be negotiating with these terrorists. They need to be demolished, they need to be destroyed, and their very first step is that they have to release the hostages. After they release the hostages, then we can start talking to them, but until that happens, there is no talking to them. This is a war. They must be rooted out wherever they are and destroyed. It's interesting to see that they've discovered now tunnels between Rafah and Egypt. That just occurred, I think, this week. And so we're seeing that they may have been able to escape through there. But you know, you have about 2 million people that have been relocated in the Gaza Strip. And it wasn't that many years ago that Israel had settlements in Gaza. And they removed those settlements in order to try to have world peace, in order to try and satisfy the other nations. We now know that was a complete mistake. They shouldn't have withdrawn because they took advantage. The people who are living on the Gaza Strip, Hamas took advantage of not having any Israel citizens there and created this massive attack. We have to stand with Israel. I stand with Israel strongly. The Republicans in Congress stand with Israel strongly. And I'm thankful for this rally that we can get together to say that people in Frederick County and in Maryland, we stand with Israel and we want to see Hamas destroyed. We want to see the hostages released. We want to see freedom around the world. And there's no way we want a two-state solution. There's only one state solution, that is Israel. And people in the Gaza Strip, they need to look at maybe going to Egypt or somewhere else. But I'll tell you where they shouldn't be going. They should not be coming to the United States. President Biden has said he wants to bring 1 million refugees from the Gaza Strip to the United States. I say no way, not one, not any of them should enter American soil. They can go to Egypt or other nations in the Middle East where they have like-minded people and they can be together. But they should not be here. And again, Hamas has got to be completely destroyed. And I'm thankful that Israel has a leader that is not pursuing any other action but what's going to be best for Israel and actually best for world peace in the long run. Again, thank you all for being here. Thank you for organizing this. It's my honor and pleasure to be able to speak with you this afternoon. Thank you.
Much like on 9/11 and down at the Gulag in D.C. for J6 prisoners, where they read the names of the hostages or the victims or those who were killed. I'd like to bring up Sam Rosenblum. He's got a list of all the hostages. We're not going to bore you with all 129 at one time. We'll just do it one page at a time in between speakers.
Okay. Yadav Kirst, Alexander Trupanov, Ariel Kouino, David Kouino, Duran Steinbrecher, Naaman Levi, Yosef Sayanda, Elad Katzir, Ohad Ben Ani, Gali Berman, Ziv Berman, Shlomo Mansour, Michal Nizenbaum, Daniela Gilboa, Ite Chen, Matan Angrest, Yosef Sharabi, Eli Sharabi, Agam Berger, Eitan Alexander, Khalid Farham El-Kadi, Matan Zangwaker.
And Eitan Alexander is one of the Americans being held. Alexander?
Thank you again. So I'm going to read a little information about the 5 American hostages that are still under Hamas rule, just to give you a little bit of an education. So the first one that Sam talked about was Adon Alexander. He was in Tenafly, New Jersey. He decided after he graduated high school to be part of the Israeli Defense Force. He was involved in the 51st Battalion Golani Brigade. He volunteered to serve. And unfortunately, he was one of those that was captured on October 7th. The second one that we are hoping that they bring back is Hirsch Goldberg Poland. He was kidnapped from the Nova Festival. There's a video of him shown with part of his left arm missing from his hand. It had to be amputated. There's videos of his arm being amputated because of what happened on October 7th, and his family are in Richmond, Virginia. The other one is Sagi Tekel. He is married with 2 daughters. He spotted Hamas terrorists infiltrating the kibbutz where he and his family lived, and he climbed onto the roof of the communal dining room. On that day, 80 of the 400 residents of kibbutz near Oz, including Sagi, were taken hostage, and the entire kibbutz was destroyed. Sagi's wife, who was pregnant at the time, she just had their 3rd child, a baby, without her husband. She has been begging for her husband to come back. The other one is Omar Nutra. His family is from Long Island, New York. He served as a tank commander and joined forces 4 years ago with the Israeli Defense Force. He was also captured by Hamas on October 7th. His ribs were broken, and they're still waiting for his return. And the most recent, the family that has been most outspoken about this man, his name is Keith Segal. He's an older gentleman. His family is from North Carolina. His wife and him were both captured. His wife was released in November 26th, and they were captured at Kibbutz Kfar Aza. The couple was actually driven into Gaza in their own car. So that means that Hamas captured them, took their own car into Gaza, and his wife was released, but he was not. And again, they beg and they plead. They beg and they plead for their loved ones to come home. Adon Alexander, his mom Yael, said in an interview, I quote directly, quote, "I told him at the end of the call, listen to me, Adon, listen, I'm here with you, I love you. In Hebrew, ani ochevet otcha. Just protect yourself, just be safe." And that's it. We hung up. I didn't know I wasn't going to hear from my son again. These are the names of the 5 hostages that need to be returned. Adon Alexander, Hirsch Golden Pollen, Sagi Dechal, Omar Nutra, and Keith Segal. And we keep them in our hearts and in our prayers, and we keep their families in our prayers as well. Thank you.
And coming up from Montgomery County, next is Rory Katz. He's from Heroat, Maryland. Let's give him a nice warm welcome.
Hello everyone, thank you very much. Thank you Fred, thank you Alexandra for bringing this to my attention today. So I lead Cherut Maryland, and Cherut in Hebrew means freedom. And we are an Israel advocacy organization, and we have communities all over the country, including Montgomery County, Washington D.C., Chicago, Chicago, Toronto, places like that. And what we strive to do is bring awareness of Israel, and issues that Israeli Americans face, issues that Jews face here in America. We try to spread love of Zion. Okay, so that's love of Israel. What I try to bring to my group, to my local community, is security in a few different ways. So one way is self-defense, encouraging our members to get good at self-defense. Indeed, one thing that I want to see is I want to see families making self-defense one of the fundamental values that they impart to their children. Another way is community defense. So I want to see people engaging with their local law enforcement to take any classes that their local law enforcement can offer on active shooter training, how to survive active shooter, how to survive, how to stop the bleed, quote quote, how to apply tourniquets to people who are bleeding. And the third thing I'm looking to provide the community is anti-Semitism training. I've said this before at a previous talk that Alexandra had invited me to. I said that where there's a vacuum, it's going to get filled, and if we don't fill it, if the pro-Israel don't fill it, then the anti-Semites will. And what happens is that on campuses across the nation, there's just a dearth of education on what Israel is and what anti-Semitism is. And instead of learning about Israel, instead of learning about Jews and the challenges the Jews face, college students they don't learn from their teachers now, but they certainly they learn it on the malls across campus. They learn about how Israel is bad and how Israel is stealing land and how Israel needs to be disbanded. All right. So one of the things that I want to provide the community is anti-Semitism education, so that people know how to respond to anti-Semitic, anti-Zionist comments. As far as the call to action goes, most of what I see on the news, unfortunately, is pressure on Israel to give more concessions to the other side. What I'd like to see, what I think we need is for us, all of us here, to put pressure on our administration to pressure Hamas. This war can be finished tomorrow if Hamas, as was said earlier, if Hamas releases the hostages, stops throwing missiles at Israel, and surrenders their murderers to justice. That's it. Right. So I want to thank you guys very, very much.
Thank you, Roy. Let's bring up the next member of our Board of Education, Mr. Colt Black.
Thank you, Fred. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for being here today. It's such a wonderful thing to be out here with each and every one of you and share in this solidarity rally event for Israel and our hostages who are currently being held. Since our exodus from Egypt some 3,300 years ago, the Jewish people have survived and thrived in a world of adversity. From the Crusades, the Spanish Inquisition with forced conversions under penalty of death, exiles, pogroms, and the Holocaust, it is surprising that a nation of Israel exists at all. That existence since Israeli independence was declared in 1948 has been under constant attack from Islamic extremists who seek not only to destroy the nation of Israel, but the Jewish people in our entirety. But we know the truth. The nation of Israel is the homeland of the Jewish people, going all the way back to the times of Moses when the nation of Israel stood at the foot of Mount Sinai. And on October 7th, 2023, the world watched in horror as Iranian-backed Islamic extremists stormed the sovereign borders of Israel and ravaged civilians in their homes, on the streets, and at music festivals. Infants, children, women, and men were all targets with no mercy shown. Beheadings and rape were the specialty of these savages, who brutalized and killed over 1,200 human beings. These terrorists kidnapped approximately 220 people, women, children, and men, taking them back into Gaza and using them as pawns and, in many cases, human shields as they do their own people. These hostages were not just Israeli in nationality, but over half were foreign nationals. Some of our own citizens here from America, citizens of Argentina, Germany, France, the Philippines, Sri Lanka, China, Thailand, Nepal, Tanzania, and Russia. When the terrorist attacks of September the 11th, 2001 occurred here in America, in New York, Washington, D.C., and Shanksville, Pennsylvania, the world watched in horror, but Israel pledged its full support to vindicate the American blood spilled. Israel stood with the United States in solidarity as America launched into what would be the longest protracted war on terror. But America squandered our opportunity to finish the job in both Iraq and Afghanistan. But America cannot allow Israel to do the same in Gaza. Now is the time to support Israel in their fight for the existence and security that they deserve. We must stand with Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli Defense Forces and tell President Biden and Congress to bring home our citizens, defend Israeli sovereignty, and allow Israel to finish the job and stop the advance of radical Islamic terror at all cost. Our fellow Americans being held in Gaza are depending on us. And as I depart here today, I'll leave you with several pieces of advice. In the Babylonian Talmud, translated into English, there is a line in which reads, "If someone comes to kill you, rise against him and kill him first." I urge each and every one of you to stay strapped, stay frosty, and stay dangerous. May God bless Israel and the victims of October 7th terrorist attack, the hostages that is currently still in Gaza. May God bless each and every one of you, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Good job, Colt. Eitan Horn, Itai Sversky, American Keith Segal, Omri Miran, Bipin Yoshi, Elon Weiss, Amiram Cooper, Oded Lifshitz, Chaim Peri, Avraham Munder, Omer Nutra, an American, Alex Danzig, Yitzhak Elgarat, Gadi Moshe, Nimrod Cohen, Tzaddik Idan, Yandan Bibas, Ronan Engel, Karina Ariev, Ofer Calderon, Yomran Metzger, and Nadav Popowell.
Periodically throughout the rally, we're going to be giving the names of the hostages and also people that died on October 7th. Our next speaker is someone who is a personal friend of mine. I met this man in Baltimore County. He just recently ran for Baltimore County judge, but he loves Israel and loves the Jewish people. My friend, Rob Daniels.
Well, thanks everybody. It's a pleasure to be here with you all today. Alexandra, as she mentioned, and I became very quick friends on the campaign trail. I'm still seeing things through the prism of a campaign, so that's kind of how I relate. I know that Neil understands. It's hard to shake it. This is my first time speaking and not giving a stump speech, so don't let me devolve into that. So yeah, in judicial races in Maryland, we must remain apolitical, nonpartisan. And it was an interesting exercise for me running this campaign and being a part of it, because it was almost as though I was in a general election at the primary stage and meeting folks from all across the spectrum, having to relate to folks and to find common ground. And the theme that I kind of wanted to touch on today is the theme of politics. In my race, certain political questions would come up and my opponents would say, "Oh, that's politics. I can't chime in." And I found that to be such a cop-out. You can't just throw up that roadblock in certain circumstances, and I think this is one of them. I was unabashed in my support and love for Israel, and one of the things Alexandra and I bonded over was her helping me make inroads in our local Jewish community and to attend events and to be able to speak and meet folks and press the flesh with my Jewish friends and neighbors. And I have a controversial viewpoint about this. I don't think it's political to be anti-terrorist. I don't think it's political to love the nation of Israel and honor these people's right to exist. And I made a pact in my campaign, and I carry that through to now. I won't allow folks to politicize these human issues in front of me. In 2020, I didn't let folks politicize being anti-crime. These are human values. And so I think what I want to end with is just to remind all of you that I think that this is a larger attempt to silence people's voices. When we suddenly announce that something's political and we shouldn't discuss it, I think that that should raise alarm bells in everyone's brain. And I think that we have to keep our voices loud. We have to keep meeting like this and keep these conversations going. There's so much chaos in our world right now, and it really does have a tendency to fatigue us and make us not want to pay attention to the big things. But this is a big thing. And thanks to all of you for lending your voice to it. Thanks for letting me be here. And let's just keep the conversation going. We have to bring those hostages home. Thank you.
Oh, Rob, your phone. Thank you so much, Rob. We really appreciate it. Someone who is also a friend of mine, but she ran for the U.S. Senate, Lori Friend. She lives up in Garrett County, and she couldn't be here today, but she wanted me to read a statement on her behalf. So she says, "I'm Lori Friend, former candidate for the U.S. Senate, and it deeply concerns me to witness the significant presence of anti-Semitism both internationally and within our own country, particularly on college campuses. It is crucial for us as Americans to stand united and put an end to this issue in our own communities so that we can also combat it in Israel. I call upon our current leaders to demonstrate strength and unity in fighting against this evil and hatred. It is disheartening to know that there are still Americans being held hostage by Hamas. We must demand the release of our fellow citizens and take decisive action to dismantle Hamas. Although I am unable to be physically present with you today, I am most definitely with you in spirit. I want to express my unwavering support for my Jewish brothers and sisters, as well as every American who stands up for the Jewish people. I will always be there to make my presence known that I, Lori Friend, registered nurse, stand with Israel. May God bless our great nation, and may He protect our beloved Israel. Thank you." And just for the record, Lori Friend actually came to our first rally that we did here in Baker Park a week after October 7th. Thank you.
Omri Miram, Liri Elbag, Shlomo Ziv, Alexander Lobanov, Ori Danino, Almag Sarusi, Omer Shemtov, Idan Shaviti, Yosef Ohana, Andrei Kozlov, Noah Aragamini, Aidan Yerushalami, Hanan Yablonka, Jonathan Samarano, Guy Gilboa Dalao, Maxim Karkin, Elkana Bobat, Rome Varashlavsky, Omer Wenkart, Aviatar David, Eitan Moore, Alan Ohel.
Now I'd like to bring up my partner in crime and also the Vice President of Frederick County Conservative Club, Seth Eisenberg.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming out. I realize it's a little hot and a little humid, but I'm sure the people that are being held hostage by Hamas would switch places with us in a second. So keep that in mind. A little suffering is good for the soul, but we need to get them out of there. I'd also like to say I am not a Jew with trembling knees. I do not believe in sitting back and waiting for things to happen. We did that in the 40s and it didn't end well for us. So I would like to say what we need to do is be proactive. We know there are terrorists out there. We know that they don't like the Jews. Let's go find them and stop waiting for them to find us. We need to deal with this immediately. We need to put them down like sick animals that they are. Real soldiers. I was in the military. We don't use civilians as shields. We don't target civilians. We don't target children. And we definitely don't use rape as a weapon. So how these other countries can allow this to happen and want us to work with them and work towards a ceasefire is beyond me. In my opinion, we shouldn't stop shooting until there's no one left to shoot. These people don't deserve to be treated like human beings. They've proved to society that they can't function with us. It's horrible and it's sad that there are countries out there that are still trying to pressure Israel into relenting and to go to the table and to work on a peaceful resolution. You can't negotiate with somebody that said they want to kill you. You just can't do it because it will never be enough. They will always want more. If we don't end this now, I can guarantee you 5 or 6 years down the road, we're going to be here again doing the same thing, talking about the same stuff. Let Israel do what they got to do. It's not pretty. It's a war. It's not supposed to be pretty, but it's effective. So let them finish and let's get these hostages home and let's stop let's stop holding these other countries' hands that promote terrorism. They need to be dealt with too. This is a perfect time in this world to eliminate terrorism. We have it. We know where they're at. We're killing them. Don't stop until it's done. Or it's just going to keep popping up every other year. We're going to be dealing with this stuff every other year. Thank you.
And by the way, you can listen to the Conservative Corner on Facebook tonight at 7 p.m. right after this rally. That is Seth Eisenberg, Conservative Corner. So our next speaker is a personal friend of mine. His name is Andrew Koch. He runs the Maryland Republican Jewish Council. He was also here at our rally that we had a week after October 7th as well. Andrew.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Andrew Koch. I'm the treasurer of the Maryland Republican Jewish Council. I am the host of the Daily Kvetch video series, and ever since October 8th, we have been in full war mode. The Maryland Republican Jewish Council has been in full war mode. Now, in regards to the hostages, I have helped friends put up posters of the hostages around downtown Baltimore. But yet, what we have seen is the age-old anti-Semitic trope that Jews are subhuman or not human at all. That is the motivation behind people tearing down the posters on university campuses, in Manhattan, even in downtown Baltimore. People are tearing down posters of the hostages as if they are not humans and they are not deserving of dignity. This is a very incorrect, it's a wrong mindset. It is a very deranged mindset. The people who are tearing down these posters as if these people, including 5 Americans who are being held hostage, are nothing, they need serious mental health treatment. I don't know how else to say it. Now, in addition to 5 Americans, of course, there are still approximately 120 some odd other people from about 25 or 30 other nations who are still being held hostage. And we have heard from freed hostages time after time. The recurring theme is sexual assault and sexual abuse, especially targeting the young women who are taken hostage. And it is incredibly disturbing. Of course, the New York Times just recently published testimony from Amit Susana, who was taken hostage from Kibbutz Kfar Aza. And what she went through is horrifying to anyone who has a conscience. So with that, I will say this in Hebrew and then in English. Ani rotzeh hayaladim habayita. I want the children home. Ani rotzeh haimot ve'avot habayita. I want the mothers and fathers home. Ani rotzeh hanashim habayita. Ani rotzeh hanashim habayita. I want the women home, the young women home, who are going through just incomprehensible horrors that we can't even begin to wrap our minds around. And finally, Ani rotzeh hasaftaim ve'asaftot habayita. I want the grandmothers and grandfathers home. Techzeru kolatam habayita achshav. Bring them all home now.
Thank you so much, Andrew. And you'll be hearing this phrase a lot today, Am Yisrael Chai, which means the people of Israel live. Shalom Alechem, peace be unto you. Our next guest is very special. He's a major in the U.S. Army. His name is Vlad Litosh, excuse me. So please come up, Mr. Vlad, and tell us your story.
All right, good afternoon. Well, it's an honor to be here, and it's a pleasure to have you as my audience. So I'm Vlad Litosh. I'm originally from Russia, although my father is from Ukraine. So I came to the United States in 1995 the first time, and then in 1997 I got into the United States graduate school. Since then I've never been back to Russia. I've been back to Ukraine though. Well, technically I'm not even Jewish because my mother is not Jewish, but while living in Russia, my father wouldn't let me a mile near the synagogue. He was simply afraid of me being followed up and beaten to death, like it happened in Russia in the 90s quite frequently, and even before. Well, so I mean, my life here in the United States has been kind of jumpy. I lived in many places. Frederick is actually the 8th place of my permanent residency. Well, currently, I was stationed in Fort Detrick. I'm in the U.S. Army right now. Now I'm stationed in Aberdeen Proving Ground, but I have kept my condo here in Frederick, so I am affiliated with the Chabad Center of Frederick, and I got invited here to speak. So, of course, I've been following the news. In fact, my daughter's cousins, children of my ex-wife's sister, live in Israel, so everything that is going on affects them. I'm also following the events that are going on in Ukraine, and every time after listening to the podcast, I leave one mark. Glory to Ukraine and Israel from Maryland. Yesterday, after Shabbat, when I opened my laptop, and I saw one reply that I would like to share with you. The reply is not something that you would like to hear, but I wanted to tell you how I responded to this. The reply was in Russian, and it sounded something like this. Isn't that true that during the first hours of invasion, the Israeli military killed 3,500 Palestinian children deliberately? Like, answer me, Jew. That's what the person said. Well, without arguing with him and without trying to defend myself or anything, I simply said, well, the Jews have been killed by their enemies, starting from the ancient Egyptians. Do not confuse with the Egyptian Arabs currently residing in them, to the Ku Klux Klan, in the largest numbers possible, regardless of gender and age. And how do you, anti-Semites, expect us, the Jews, behaving indifferently toward you? That's all I said. So I don't mean to tell you what to do. You, of course, you make your own decision. But every time you encounter somebody criticizing the Jews in general or the state of Israel of overreaction, of overdoing, and every time they say, "Oh, you should be more humane than your enemies are," well, my response would be, look at yourself in the mirror. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. That was so compelling. So I have a message from someone who couldn't be here today, but he's actually a personal friend of mine, and he's an elected official in Baltimore County. His name is Tim Fazenbaker. He's also a member of the Frederick County Conservative Club, and he has been to every single event in regards to Israel, and he loves the Jewish community. So he wanted me to say this on his behalf. We gather here today to mourn the victims and send our condolences to their families. As a father of 4, 2 boys, 2 girls, I can't imagine how the families must have felt on October 7th when they heard the news of their children being kidnapped or murdered. As an elected official, I will do everything in my power to help bring the hostages home and push our lawmakers to make this a priority. As a citizen and someone that is heavily connected to the Jewish community, I will continue to pray for the victims, their families, and memorialize the fallen. Never again means never again, and never again is now. Thank you, Tim Fazenbaker. And without further ado, one of the main organizers of this event, my good friend, Fred Profiter, who's done all these rallies and events with me, president of the Frederick County Conservative Club. Fred Profiter.
I stand before you today with a profound sense of urgency. In the last few days, we've been confronted with the devastating news that 4 hostages held in Gaza have been killed. This tragic and senseless loss underscores the immediate need to address the hostage crisis, secure the release of all remaining captives. Moreover, it's a stark indictment of the current administration's failure to protect and rescue these innocent lives. Hostage-taking is an act of terror that strikes at the very core of our shared humanity. It is a grievous violation of international law and human rights, causing unimaginable suffering not only to the captives, but also their families, friends, and communities. These hostages are not merely statistics, they are fathers, mothers, sons, daughters, and friends whose lives and dreams have been cruelly interrupted. Today we mourn the loss of 4 precious lives. We share the grief of their families and loved ones, and we stand in solidarity with them in their pain and anguish. But mourning is not enough. We must also hold accountable those who have failed to act decisively to prevent this tragedy. The Biden administration has not done enough, despite numerous opportunities to exert diplomatic pressure, mobilize international coalitions, and engage in effective negotiations. The administration has fallen short. This failure is not just a policy oversight, but a moral failing. The primary duty of our government is to protect its citizens, and in this, the current administration has yet again let us down. We must demand more from our leaders. We must demand that they prioritize the safe return of all hostages with the urgency and seriousness that this crisis deserves. Diplomatic efforts must be intensified. All available channels, both direct and indirect, must be utilized to ensure no more lives are lost. To the captors in Gaza, we say this: holding innocent people hostage is an act of cowardice and brutality. It achieves nothing but widespread condemnation and deepens your isolation from the global community. We demand the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages. Continuing to hold them will only lead to further consequences and reinforce the resolve of those who oppose you. To the families of the hostages, our hearts are with you. Your strength and resilience in the face of such unimaginable hardship are inspiring. We promise to stand with you, amplify our voices, and work tirelessly until your loved ones are safely returned. To President Biden and his administration, we demand immediate and decisive action. It is not the time for half measures or bureaucratic delays. Every resource must be mobilized, every ally engaged, and every strategy considered to bring our citizens home. The world is watching, and history will judge how we respond to this crisis. This tragic incident must serve as a wake-up call. It is a call to action for all of us to stand against violence and oppression and advocate fiercely for our innocent lives caught in the crossfire of political and ideological conflicts. We must work to ensure that those who perpetrate these heinous acts are held accountable and that such tragedies never happen again. In conclusion, the deaths of the 4 hostages in Gaza are a stark reminder of the urgency and importance of our efforts. Excuse me. We must act now to resolve with resolve and determination to free the remaining hostages and prevent further loss of life. Let us commit ourselves to the future where no family has to endure the pain of losing a loved one to such senseless violence. Let us build a world where peace, justice, and human dignity are upheld for all. Thank you. Now, I've never really wished harm or death on anyone, but there are reports today that the president of Iran, his helicopter crashed upon landing in Iran, and we can only hope that he will not be able to return to power. Let's put it that way. Does anybody else have something to say? Anybody?
The Israeli army, they found the bodies of the 3 hostages. The Israeli army finds bodies of the 3 hostages. And then seeing them read the rest of it, and then shot.
Yep.
Thank you so much. So I'm just going to do an updated report. So the Israeli army, which is called the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, reports came out from the Times of Israel, Jerusalem Post, Sheva Haaretz, I-24 News, that they found bodies of 3 hostages in Gaza that were killed on October 7th at the Nova Music Festival. As we remember, 250 were murdered at the Nova Music Festival. The main one was the 23-year-old, the German-American Shani Lux. They found out that she was actually beheaded. 28-year-old woman Amit Buskila, 57-year-old man Yitzchak Gelamentor. They all fled the Nova Festival. The 3 bodies were found together Thursday in a tunnel during a military operation in Gaza. And then actually Saturday morning, Ron Benyamim, who was 53 years old, he was killed on the day of the attack at the Mar Kibbutz Nefalsin, and his body was taken to Gaza. He was murdered on the day, October 7th, and they found his body today. So we keep them in their hearts, and we memorialize them. We say in Hebrew a mourner's Kaddish for them forever, and we memorialize the fallen, and our prayers go out to victims' families. Sam?
Almat Meir Jan, Inbar Hyman, Hirsch, Goldberg, Poland, an American, Segev Kalfan, Orion Hernandez Rado, Romy Leshan Gonen, Bar Cooperstein, Elia Cohen, Carmel Gott, Ohad Yahalomi, Dror Or, Tal Shohan, Sange Dekel Khan, American. Yisrael Chai.
It's been 225 days now. That's 225 days, way too long. I appreciate you all coming out today, and our last speaker, Sean Porter. Probably the most mundane thing he's going to have to say ever. Come on up, Sean.
Thank you. All right, guys, I have no relation to Israel by blood. I'm not in organized politics this election cycle. I represent no campaign. I make sure that I vote, and I try my best to vote wisely. But this upcoming election is very important. A date that people should look up on the internet would be January 20th, 1981. So January 20th, 1981 was the day before Ronald Reagan was to be inaugurated. And that is the day that Iran released the hostages. The terrorists do not respect weak people. Terrorists are bullies. Currently at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, we have a weak and feckless president. I believe his weakness is what caused the whole situation to precipitate and to occur. I believe if we had a different president with some chutzpah, possibly this whole thing would not have happened. In my opinion, the only people who are afraid of President Joe Biden are 12-year-old girls and the parents of 12-year-old girls who don't want their children to be sniffed. So this election, make sure you vote for a president that not only represents the American people, but represents all the good people of the world and will actually stand up to bullies, stand up to terrorists, hold them accountable with the full force of the United States military, and not kowtow to Iranians, not kowtow to Hamas, not give billions of dollars to Iranians to attack Israel, and not to give aid to Hamas in the form of disguised humanitarian aid, $100 million at a time. You know that money went directly to terrorist attacks on the people of Israel. It's shameful that kind of leadership we currently have at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. American people have the chance to fix this in November, and I hope the American people exercise their right and ability to do so. Thank you for having me.
So, hello everybody, my name's Scott Beard. I figured I would just add on a little bit to that. I've heard a lot of people kind of blame different people. They've blamed administration, they've blamed political processes. But the real people that need to be blamed a little bit are us. You know, last week we had 19% of the people that came out and voted. At the same time, this political situation is what we have allowed our government to get to over the last 50 years. This is hard to shift, it's hard to turn the boat around in one administration. The last 50 years we've let Washington, D.C. get to where it is now. So because of this situation, we need to point the fingers at ourselves and say, what if some of this blame lies with us? What can we do better? I certainly would put up with a lot of stupid and insensitive tweets in exchange for a good foreign policy. Thank you very much.
I just want to say thank you to everyone who came here today. Thank you to Fred, and thank you to Seth Eisenberg and everybody that's here today. We need to keep these rallies going. We need to keep these events going. We need to stand and support our biggest ally, Israel. And we need to just pray and continue to pray for these hostages to come back, hopefully in one piece, but we need them to come back. And that is the biggest message of today. We call for the release of the hostages as soon as possible. Bring them back to their families. It's very, very important. Again, we have 5 Americans that are still under Hamas rule, and the parents don't know what's going on. So we need to keep them in our hearts and our prayers. We have so many people here to connect with. We have so many different groups. Thank you to our sponsor, Harut Maryland. They have Harut DC as well as Harut North America. Thank you again to the Frederick County Conservative Club. You can follow Fred Profiter and Seth Eisenberg. And thank you to the Maryland Jewish Republican Club. And you can follow them as well. You can follow anybody that spoke here today. Please, guys, we need to grow these organizations. We need to grow these events. We need to grow these groups. Thank you, guys, and God bless you.
I can't say any better than Alexander did. Thank you all for coming out. God bless you. Be safe going home.
Well,
half hour to spare. So we ended with half hour to spare.
Yeah.
Well, my friend Rob had done it because it got political. Because he can't, you know, he's a judicial, what is it, court judge, so he can't be on the political side. Oh,
All right. Back it up.
Oh, I was saying,
If we all want, if you all want to take pictures with each other, again, now I am going to go political. We do have our Republican nominee for Congress in this district, Mr. Parrott. If you guys haven't spoken to him or gotten to know him or taken down his information, please, he's right here at everyone's disposal.
Colt Black.
Oh, and Colt Black as well. School board, everybody. If you haven't met Colt Black, he's running for school board. Thank you. Oh, and also our friend Washington County, my friend Sean Flaherty, he's running for Hagerstown City Council. Woo! So if you haven't met him, please, if you live in Hagerstown, please get in touch with him too. Thank you.
Right up there.
Yeah. Think about the hostages in their cover. Thanks for your service.
I was in Yale State. I live in Baltimore. I got so many people who okay for that. They had their thing. Yeah, I was are you a My dad was on. That's what it was. He was a nom guy. Hey, it's all good, man. It's all good. I'll let you check your podcast. Yes.
I got
Seth Osborne.
So I'm thinking
I stood up in front of there was hundreds of people. It was a high holiday. First of all, I thought the order was good. I stood up and I said, well, you know what? No president is better to the straight of this. You can't, like you say, you can't negotiate. I let that guy get out. They'll never tell you the South behind. But you know what? We got there's 3 houses out there. Who's missing enough for most of them? The tunnel, they have 50 tunnels going to. Now, to me, I'm a big fan of it. I met the Hana when I was 13 years old. So it's my shows that have a lot of anyway, long story short, I don't like to hear those guys might say. That's the tunnel right there. But here's the thing too, you know what, but here's the thing, I'm thinking that young too, not what happened, but I would say to him, if I was him, where's the railway?
Oh, they don't get okay, good.
When did it start though?